Hi everybody! Today we're going to be explaining the female reproductive system for human biology. First of all, the female sexual organs can be divided into external and internal organs. In women, the inner and the outer labia and the clitoris make up the external sexual organs. This set of organs is known as the vulva. And in the other hand, the vagina, uterus, fallopian tubes, and the ovaries make up the internal sexual organs. The first sexual organ we're going to explain is the vagina. The vagina is on the inside, a flexible tube that connects your vulva to the cervix and uterus. This is the organ that characterizes the woman. It is where menstruations come from the body and babies during birth. It is also one of the places where sexual penetration can occur. The vagina has three main functions. The first one, to receive the penis during sexual intercourse. This function, besides offering pleasure, ensures the reproduction of human species. The second one, to allow the expulsion of blood during the menstrual period. Every 28 days, a layer called endometrium is peeled and exits the body through the vagina. And the third one, to allow for the exit of the newborn and the placenta during birth. The vagina dilates at the time of birth so that the newborn baby can pass through. The fallopian tubes. It is connected at the top of the uterus, which they are also oviducts. This pair of tubes measure 10 centimeters in length and 2.4 millimeters in width on an average. Its functions are divided in letting eggs from the ovaries to the uterus, letting the spermatozoids from the uterus to the eggs. This is an image of the whole female reproductive system and its main parts. The division of the fallopian tubes. The first one, infundibulum, is the closest end to the ovary, with some irregular extensions called fimbriae. The second one, ampoule. This is the longest and widthest portion of the tube. This is where fertilization usually takes place. And the third one is thymus. This is the part that is close to the uterine stream with a more reduced diameter. The outer labia. A pair of outer labia formed mainly of skin is found in the most external part of the female sexual organs. They provide protection against any possible pathogen. These labia have many sweat glands and sebaceous glands producing sebum and are surrounded by pubic hair after puberty.
The inner labia. Within the outer labia is another pair called the inner labia. This forms a layer of skin to protect the clitoris. In addition, this labia protects the urethra and the entry of the vagina. This inner labia doesn't have pubic hair nor sweat glands. The clitoris. The clitoris is located on the top part of the urethra and it is protected by the inner labia. It is very small, measuring only 12 millimeters in length on average. This female sexual organ, which is located on the center of the vulva, has the only purpose of providing sexual pleasure to the woman. This is how the clitoris will look like on the inside. A set of pillars and different bodies that can be filled with blood when stimulated. When they fill with blood, the woman feels pleasure and can even lead to an orgasm. The uterus, not to be mistaken with the urethra, is also called the womb. This organ is designed for the development, growth, and nourishment of a living organism after fertilization. Its form can be compared to a funnel. On one end, the uterus is wide, and on the opposite, the end is narrow. This is how a uterus would look like. As I said, on the externalmost part it's narrow, and in the innermost part is very wide. It is divided into three main areas: the cervix, the cavity of body where a baby develops, and the uterine tube. This is how a vulva would look like. let us remember that all women have different vulvas. These are the main parts. We have the outer lips, the inner lips, the clitoris, the bladder opening, and the vaginal opening. Within the vaginal opening, we can find the uterus. We also have the pubic area or mons pubis, is where the most pubic hair grows.
Division of the uterus. Cervix. This is the lowest and thinnest part of the uterus. It is very flexible, as it opens up to allow for the baby to pass through toward the vagina during birth. Also blood during the menstrual period. The cervix must be checked regularly. Cervical uterine cancer is one of the diseases that cause many women their lips each year. Body. This part occupies two-thirds part of the entire uterus. It is its lowest part has a short area called the isthmus, which is located just above the cervix. Bottom. This is the highest part of the uterus. This is where the uterus communicates with the fallopian tubes. Layers of the uterus. Endometrium. This is the mucous layer that is renewed and menstruated every 28 days if a pregnancy is not produced. Myometrium. This is the muscular layer which is the thickest and strongest that grows and supports the uterus during pregnancy. Perimetrium, also called the serous layer, this is the outermost layer of the uterus. Oogenesis. This is the process by which the oogonias are transformed into mature oocytes. This process undergoes three different stages during puberty. Stage 1. The primary oocyte increase in size and the epithelial cells that surround it change from a flatness shape to a cubical shape. From 6 to 12 oocytes are covered by glycoproteins. Stage 2. From those 6 to 12 oocytes, only one measured, and by the LH hormone expels the egg from the ovary toward the fallopian tubes. This process is called ovulation. The first meiotic division takes place. Stage 3. The secondary oocyte starts the second meiotic division but does not stop until it reaches the metaphase. When a spermatozoid enters the oocyte, it continues with the meiosis process. Polycystic ovary syndrome. When there is an imbalance of the production of hormones in the women, the ovulation process is affected, inhibiting the eggs from being expelled as they would normally. In this case, eggs are trapped and accumulate within the ovaries and are accumulated over time and fill up with a liquid that causes this illness.
Women suffering this syndrome often present an alteration or absence of their menstrual cycle, diabetes, excess body hair, acne, obesity, hypertension. Despite the fact that this is a cause of infertility in women, many have been able to conceive after undergoing adequate treatment. In this picture, we can see how a normal ovary looks and how a polycystic ovary looks. How does pregnancy occur? After ovulation, the oxide that is found in the fallopian tube produces chemical signals that lead the spermatozoids toward it. Millions of spermatozoids travel to the woman's vagina, to the ampulla of the fallopian tube, where fertilization usually takes place. From so many spermatozoids that travel to the egg, only one is able to penetrate it. The 23 chromosomes of the spermatozoid's nucleus are recombined with the 23 chromosomes of the egg's nucleus to form the zygote. The zygote is a cell that contains all the genetic information necessary to form a new individual, and the zygote, after several days, will travel to the uterus, where it is implanted and will grow for 9 months so that a new human being is born. Ectopic pregnancy. In some cases, the zygote is not implanted in the uterus as it usually occurs. Instead of being implanted in the uterus, its implantation occurs in the fallopian tube or the abdominal cavity, and this produces an ectopic pregnancy. The majority of these pregnancies are terminated by natural death
of the embryo, also putting the mother's life at risk. Contraceptive methods. Just as there are many couples that wish to become parents, there are other couples that they just want to enjoy their time with their couple and enjoy their sex. So this is why contraceptive or family planning methods exist so that couples can prevent pregnancy.
For this part of the presentation, I'm going to be explaining what is a sexual transmission disease, as well as explaining you the characteristics of the most common diseases. A sexually transmitted disease is basically an infection passed from one person to another through sexual contact. They are caused by bacteria, parasites, and viruses. STDs caused by bacteria and parasites can be treated by antibiotics. However, there is no cure for STDs caused by a virus. Many harmful and sometimes deadly illnesses or infections can be acquired through sexual activity. Everyone with an active sex life is at risk of getting these illnesses. Methods to prevent STDs. First, we have condoms. People should be using condoms not only to prevent pregnancy but to prevent STDs. Avoiding having multiple sexual partners, know your sexual partner, practice monogamy, and STDs exams once in a while. Now, one of the most common STDs is HIV and AIDS, the human immunodeficiency virus, which in its advanced stage receives the name of acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. This virus decreases the amount of lymphocytes in the body, depressing the immune system and making it impossible for the body to defend against pathogen agents, causing death by multiple acquired infections. Basically, HIV is a virus that attacks cells that help the body fight infection, weakening the immune system, making a person more vulnerable to other infections and diseases. It is spread by contact with certain body fluids of a person that is already infected. This means that you can get infected not only by unprotected sex. Another common way to get infected is by sharing injection or drug equipment, or just using infected syringe. But in fact, the most common way to get infected is by unprotected sex. There is no cure for HIV, so once you have it for life. However, it can be controlled by taking antiretroviral therapy, which makes HIV patients have a normal life and prevent transmitting HIV to their sexual partners. If HIV is left untreated, it can lead to AIDS. Many years can go by before HIV attacks enough lymphocytes, turning into AIDS. AIDS basically is the late stage of HIV virus. That occurs when the body immune system is completely damaged because of the virus. When you get HIV, your levels of lymphocytes start decreasing due to the attack to the immune system. But you can control this from progressing by taking antiretrovirals. But if you don't, the levels of lymphocytes of your body will get so low that your immune system is basically unable to protect you from any other infection. This means you can even die from a flu because your body cannot defend you anymore. When you get to that point, you have AIDS. Next, we have gonorrhea, caused by the Neisseria gonorrhoeae bacteria. This illness affects both men and women. Its symptoms begin 3 or 5 days after contracting it, and it can affect the internal sexual organs and can also cause infertility. Can be cured by antibiotic treatment. The symptoms include secretion of pus through vagina or penis, dysuria, and pain in internal and external reproductive areas. Next, we have syphilis. This is an aggressive illness caused by the Treponema pallidum bacteria. This illness has 4 stages: primary, secondary, latent, and tertiary. It starts with rashes and ulcers at the place where the bacteria enter the body, generally the anus or around the penis or vagina. 3 to 6 weeks later, rashes begin to appear on the back, bottoms of feet, and palms of hands, and then disappear quickly. During this stage, people who are infected can contaminate others through skin-to-skin contact. After getting through the latent phase, there are no apparent symptoms. However, the tertiary phase affects organs such as the heart and the blind and causes blindness and dementia, which can lead to death. This illness can be treated with medicines in the initial phases. Human papillomavirus is a viral infection that's passed between people through skin-to-skin contact. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, HPV is the most common sexually transmitted infection. The human papillomavirus is manifested with warts in the internal and external genital areas. However, they can also appear on the knees, elbows, and face, among other areas. This is the most common cause of cervical cancer in women. There is no cure for HPV, but it can be controlled. For concluding our presentation, we can say that the female reproductive system is a complex system designed to carry several functions, not only in the female body and physiology, but in the role of fertilization and, as the name says, reproduction. That's all for our presentation. Thank you for your attention, and we hope you really like it.